Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I'm like the Rocket Man today. What's up, Michelle? Here it is. May 11th. You know what? Hold on. You know what? You're not coming through here. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see what's going on here. I can see. I can hear you just fine. But, let's tell it manually. Let's see. Try that.
Oh, hello?
Yeah. All right. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
That's
So
okay.
anyway, we were just giggling and having a good time, and
Yeah, like usual. Play music together.
yeah.
Yeah.
And really, that's so important right now. I just put up another Love Train version of Love Train, and so you guys can go check that out on my other channel. I should have dropped the link below, but I totally forgot. I'll put a link for you guys watching later. I actually did a post. You can go to the community tab and go find it that way. But yeah, it's so important right now to keep your vibes up, to stay on the love train. That's how it actually started. A session a long time ago. It was like, look, you can get on the fear train or you can get on the love train, and it's a conscious choice. I mean, you can look out the window and still see what's going on from the love train, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, a lot more fun on that ride for sure.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the energy's coming in. I talked about it months ago about the anxiety that I like had these waves of anxiety with no real reason in my life to feel anxious about anything. I mean, everything was fine, you know. I mean, sure you can look at the news, but I'm not into like looking at the news and spending hours of watching fearful stuff to feel like that, you know. So I'm like off doing my own thing, and then I'll have this like wave of anxiety come over me, and it forces me to have to actually sit down and get into a meditative state.
Hmm.
I've been taking like baths almost daily just to sort of ground and soak and just pulling the energy. So it's been really rough, like physically on me. I haven't been very hungry.
Mm.
Been trying to drink more water and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's been the anxiety has been, and I've heard other people talking about it. Like people's bosses are like having a hard time, and I think a lot of times people confuse they have so much that they're already worried about and that they're already feeling anxious about. So they don't realize that this is like added to what they're feeling already. They just play it off, or maybe they do realize it's more than they usually deal with and they go see a doctor or something, you know. But I know, like, I wasn't feeling anxious about anything, and I felt this wave of anxiety come over. And it only lasts like a few seconds, and then I have to like breathe through it or whatever. But totally, doing the breathing exercise is what works for me every time. And my son had a similar experience. He's 14, and that's what he did. He kind of intuitively, he said, I just started taking deep breaths, and I felt better. So important to
Hmm.
know right off the bat.
Yeah. Well, it was really, I found, so the last 2 weeks of May there between the new moon and the full moon before we came into May, there was a real lift May 1st. Um, but it really felt what I was told. It was like the press. I kept getting the press, but also with it was an energy which I really brought out a fight or flight response, and I have found this to be a cyclical thing. Like it's come around where there's been a dream, because I don't have nightmares, and I wouldn't even consider this a nightmare anymore. Um, but it's like a run through scenario to see how I navigate it. And so I really found that I found like I was just sitting there minding my own business, and the energy just came in, and it's like panic. Like, what do you do? Like you need to respond, actions required or something. And it really came in as a rush, and I went into the meditative state, like you said, like you did too, and just asked, what is this? And that's what I got. It was fight or flight. And the dream I had to go along with it was a rather quick scenario where I found myself sort of dropped into a situation like where the dream was sort of running on an unconscious autopilot, and I found myself like in this room in this mad rush to get out the window, like break through the screen and get out, because there was some kind of monster in the bathroom and just off the room. And so it was like being dropped in the middle of a movie, in the middle of the horror scene, where they're like, and I'm experiencing it physically, as in like the rush of the panic, all of that, the stomach flipping, and just dropped into that body, in midst of doing this. That's really what it was. And I stopped myself like halfway out the window, sort of becoming conscious of this. And I was like, hold on a second, I don't do this. I don't run. And I stopped myself, pulled out of the window, and turned around in the room, and I'm aware, or I can hear like the banging or whatever this monster is, and in the bathroom, and I turn, and I can still experience like the panic, like of the physical body, and how it wants to like freak out.
Yeah.
But I'm navigating with this higher consciousness control of like, no, I know how this is how I deal with situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it also did, I found it went from one end of the scale to the other. So it went from flight, to get out of here, and then to overcome the feelings of anxiety, the physical hoopla going on.
Yeah.
I went to fight mode, right? So it was like overextending myself, like to the other end of the scale, and like, I will demolish you, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
So, and go to approach the bathroom, and that, in that sense, like, you're coming, I will disintegrate you, right?
Right.
And which was interesting. And then I became aware of that. I became aware of using that as a tool. Like, okay, you're using the to overcome the
Right.
right, and then tempered myself again.
It's like you
And,
brought
like,
balance to the
stopped.
fight or flight, a lower part of the brain,
Really
so that you could
experienced,
step out of that into the higher mind. It was like a stepping
through
stone.
all of it.
Right.
While still experiencing like the one level, the physical, where your physical body is like,
Yeah.
wanting to freak out, and just having that observant mind, watching observing the observer,
Right.
and making that analysis. So I went from facing this demon in the bathroom, and sort of, that experience of, if anybody's had this in a nightmare, or like a dream, where you're waiting for that head to like pop around the corner,
Right.
kind of see whatever, like the shock of it, of what you're going to see, and that, suspense of that moment, right? So I overcome the fight response as well,
Mm-hmm.
and completely tempered myself, and was willing to accept the vision in sort of actually a non-judgmental way of whatever it was I was going to see.
Right.
It completely tempered. So even the suspense of the horror of what I was going to witness subsided, in that I wasn't afraid of anything that I was going to observe. I knew that I could handle it. So I do think we had a run through of that process, and I have noticed this cyclically happening over the last few years, with sort of even much stronger dreams than that one, where I'm being run through a fear response. And how are you going to react in these situations?
Mm-hmm.
And it really is, I think going to the root, like we've been talking about this, the root, the base, the bloodlines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And making that healthy, and
Right, and
Anyways,
it's bringing all that to the surface. One of the things that it reminds me of the time I was laying in bed. Just I told you about it last week when we talked a few weeks ago. Though I was just lying in bed, and I only mention this because I had that feeling, and I have a feeling that if you're picking up on these external energies that's making you feel anxious, and you're awake, and conscious of it, and you're breathing through it and you're handling it, what happens when you're asleep? Do you get these types of dreams? That, because we've talked about that before with the like uplifting energies, and then we'll have these floating or flying dreams. But right now, if you're picking up on this collective or energetic cosmic energy, whatever it is, and it's being perceived as anxious, then you might have dreams that are more anxious like that, right? It's like sort of your brain's
yeah.
way of
Oh, absolutely.
giving you
It's
a
going to.
picture that goes
It's
with the feelings you're getting,
for
whatever it
sure. I mean,
is.
yeah. It really is. It's been one of the great experiences lately too, especially the last few months, with mom and her coming to that newer observational level of really reaching this awareness of how watching these waves of energy come in,
Mm-hmm.
and how they bring things out in you
Mm-hmm.
and sort of shake this stuff loose, bring it to the surface, and then watching these things kind of happen, these synchronicities, or these people come in, and um, watching how it all is connected to what is being brought up, and in this real observer mode.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is, it really is quite an achievement even to get to that place. And it's been a real miracle, like watching that develop in my mom. It's been one thing to observe and watch it in me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a real blessing over the last 2 years to be able to witness that, really like that cracking open of like, oh, well, like, who am I seeing? Who am I listening to? Who am I watching? Like watching her go into that observer mode after not being there,
Right.
her
I'm seeing a
whole
lot of
life.
that
Like
in
it
my
really
family
is
too.
it's huge.
Coming around, and it's like, I don't know. It's like people that wouldn't listen to me, now they're listening to other people that they tried to send me to, but now they're saying some of the stuff I was saying, and it's like beautiful. You know what I mean? And of course, you have that the ego wants to be like, like how about an apology for how you treated me all those years, or whatever. You know what I mean? But just
Yeah.
so thankful that they're waking up, that I can just let all that crap go. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
we're all on our own journey, and to want somebody to wake up before their time is really, that's
Yeah.
our own ego wanting that to happen, because
For
I'm seeing
sure.
everybody waking up at their own speed, and I do see progress being made, and it's beautiful. And like I was saying in
Huge.
the bed thing the other night, I missed the main part of it. I had that feeling come over me, like I just got to get up, I got to move, I got to do something, and I just got into that meditative state and said, no, you're going to lay there, you're going to relax, and I sort of kind of, like you were saying, you kind of move from the feelings of fear, into that sort of warrior fight feeling of, like, getting my body into submission, like, no, you're just going to
Yeah.
relax, and you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
taking control
Where
of it,
you're like,
rather
I will
than,
claim, yeah, where
right,
you
rather than
claim
being
your light.
controlled by it,
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's important right now, because we're getting bombarded, by the
Yeah.
collective, by the cosmic and solar energies. I think we got a CME on the way.
Yeah. There's just a lot of stuff to shake you up, and I keep getting, as a visual as well, as like holding that flame,
Hmm.
and holding that flame inside you, and I have been using that quite a bit, of like going into a meditative state until I can really like feel the flame, feel the
Yeah.
energy of it moving through me, and know that is just simply all I need to do, is just build and focus on that flame.
Yeah.
um and all of that subsides, and just the process of releasing that, being conscious of knowing that your body is shaking off this stuff that doesn't serve it, and releasing these algorithms, programs,
Hmm.
archetypes, characters, entities,
Yeah.
all these different things,
Energetic attachments of one sort
attachments
or
that
another. Yeah.
don't serve the higher purpose, the highest frequency that you want to maintain, and just holding that sovereignty and reclaiming that space and holding that primal focus, you know, in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah, it really does work and get you through. And it becomes clear. And I love when you can put yourself in that space, and the universe will communicate with you. It will communicate these concepts and ideas to you for you with your own metaphors,
Oh yeah.
with your own uh, you know, tools in your own unique way.
That's why it's so important to, you know, direct people to the I am, their own presence, to go within, because that's where the answers are. It's within, you know,
Mm,
and it's going to be so individualized. You know, it's going to be catered to each
yes.
of our experience. That's why
Yeah.
we share our experiences, but it won't be yours. It's going to be maybe similar. You'll maybe have parallels with things, but we're all in
Yeah.
our own magical journey, you know?
Yeah. We really are, and we're all dialed and tuned a little differently in this process, but it's like it's part of all the colors and the fractals, and it really is the beauty of it, and that's something so intricate and so complex that can still be all connected,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm noticing a
So
lot of, with people, a lot of really, they seemingly small things, right? But they're having huge, like, impacts on people's life. Like maybe just the small realization about something. And I know your mom had one. I had somebody had contacted me. I shared this story the other day, but when I had done the essential oil mist, and I saw my mom's image in it, and somebody had contacted me. They were living in tremendous guilt because they had taken care of their mother towards the end of the life with hospice, and they were having to, you know, work a job, and they didn't get to spend a lot of time with them, and then they passed away, and now they're feeling like, you know, I wish I would have just went without a little more sleep, spent some time with them. Now I'm living with all this guilt, and I totally felt like their mom and my mom got together on the other side and really wanted me to just tell them that, look, just think about the happy times, think about the good times, think about the times that make you smile. The last thing your parent wants you to do is to feel guilty. I mean, that would be the
mm-hmm.
one thing, like, look, just think about the good times. And then that really opens us up to other interactions, like maybe even hearing things and stuff, because that guilt is just really a block. It creates this wall around us, you know, and it drops our frequency. But if we're thinking about the happy times, that's creating more of a conduit for a connection of some type, because they're there. They're really there. They're not, they're gone off the physical plane, but they're
Mm-hmm.
just as around as, you know, we are, you know?
Yeah. Well, the guilt release, as in generational, ancestral, I
Mm-hmm.
think is really big right now, and I've definitely been getting a lot of messages on that of this pruning of family trees and ancestral antiquities that are no longer required. And guilt is one of these things, and regrets um, um, keep you tied to certain scenarios and things, or even certain family members that you should need, like you need to let go of, like that those branches aren't really, you don't really want those connected to your future timelines. And there's a big releasing of that too. You know, a lot of us in this process lose people in our lives, like friends, right? As we change, all these people just drop away, and family as well. And some family serves us well, and some does not. And just like some friends have served us well, and some have not. Um, and but I do find a real deep cleaning, pruning of ancestral attachments that are no longer required in order for continuing for like healthy growth of yeah, the next level. So there's been a
And I
lot
like
of
that because
demonstrations.
we think of like our family tree or our life as being these individual um, isolated compartments, because you know it's not like a tree that you see all of the different rings and all the different years that build up, but it really is like that, isn't it? It's like we are like
Mm-hmm.
a tree that can
Yeah.
carry on traits, and you know, through the DNA of course, but energetically speaking, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of that is getting shaken up now with these energies because everything has a frequency, and things, they call it purging or kind of bubbling things to the surface. I think that's what we're seeing. Don't you think?
Well, I was seeing, like you said, like the rings of the tree, and I was seeing how the wood specifically came up several times. Also for like a friend's dream, this theme of wood, ancestral, like a wood box with
Mm-hmm.
family names engraved on them. Um, uh, and that one of the, and Atwood was on there, which is one of the last names was Atwood, which wasn't even part of his name. Um, the the ability of wood to hold memory,
Mm-hmm.
like water,
Right.
is really was similar, like, and
And then
holding,
blood has water in it, so
and blood too. That's
right.
what I was seeing. This like
Really,
water,
water's the
wood,
common
blood.
theme with all of this. Wood's got
Hmm.
quite a bit of water and
But the
moisture, and
wood,
yeah,
the wood specifically, as far as like water, it's like everything, right?
right,
The wood specifically really seemed to signify the ancestral, like the generations,
right.
and the branches, and the wood's ability to hold, well, I'll say even like curses, like there's hanging trees. I was getting, haunted trees,
Mm-hmm.
right? The fact, like wood houses having maybe more ghosts in them, like they actually
Mm-hmm.
hold um,
Well, Eileen talks about that
residual.
wooden that cabinet behind her that's made of that antique wood that's probably loaded with all sorts of
That's right.
antiquity, energetically
That's right.
speaking.
And yeah,
Yeah.
and one an aspect of this dream that my friend had as well was is being, so he's preparing to leave, take off for a flight, and there's a yard sale, and it's all like antiques and old furniture and like old vases, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's stuff like your grandmother passes on to you, stuff you kept in the attic that you forgot you had, knickknacks. And so really this process, he was going through this yard sale trying to decide what he would even keep from any of this, and there wasn't really anything, except this one wooden box, and engraved on it was his first name, and then names that were not his but presented on this box like it was. So it was his first name followed by Moses, Paul, and then Atwood.
And the box was
And
wood.
and the box was wood, but like really like or like primitively carved, like decorated, almost in a garish kind of
Synchronicity,
tacky
Dana.
way.
Dana's saying his daughter's married name is Atwood. So
Really?
yeah, it's interesting. So it
Yeah,
means of the
the
wood,
wood.
though.
Of the
Atwood.
wood, yeah, of the wood, and he
Which
got
can
it in
mean
a
of
wood
the
box.
forest too, or of the land, or of nature. I mean, you could expand that quite a bit, because they call the woods
Yeah.
a wood too, of the
Well,
wood. Yeah.
I think it was really signifying this family tree of
Hmm.
the wood. Like,
Right.
yeah, I really got, a strong picture with that. And the only thing he kept from this yard sale was this small wooden box, the type of box that you would keep, pictures in. What I saw was keepsakes, that the only things worth keeping. So it's just a great example, one of the several examples of kind of this energy of sort of going through um, stuff that you've kept over the generations that no longer serves you anymore, and a deliberate decision, a conscious decision, a choice in what you choose to keep, and it would be very selective memories, um, you know, like pictures, like you just keep in a box. So there's a conscious choice and a letting go, and the pre-flight. The other aspect of this dream was him coming in contact with a grandmother, not his directly, but through marriage in another part of the family. And he was sharing with her his journal and reading pages to her from the journal. And she was really, like really agreeing with everything that he was saying, and really understanding him. And he really felt like on the same level. And I said, yes, it's showing you she's on the same page. She's on the same page as your thoughts. And what I was seeing with this was that it, even though she wasn't, like, he thought he wasn't directly related to her bloodline, that in fact, because it was like mirroring like blood vessel bloodlines, and then with the tree, with the wood tree, and it was like overlaying them. Like, we have, not everything is all was like a monad bloodlines, like spiritual bloodlines too, like
Mm-hmm.
a overlaying. and and that we are, so many of us, like if you go back to the time of Moses, right, which was one of the first names that was listed, how many of us are actually related, right? Because it branches out. So we don't realize how many of us are cousins,
Right.
from these generations back. So it was showing that, then that was showing the Moses, the Paul, like through all these generations. And that we are going through a selective process right now of pruning the family tree on a whole different level, right? It's not all in the physical level. And that, this grandmother that was sort of only through marriage off to the side was actually on the same page, was directly attached to his health, like his healthier, higher monad, or higher healthy timeline, bloodline. And that's really what's coming together right now. And I saw these sort of different branches, either whether it was the tree and these dead branches being pruned away, and in that, the new sort of leaves that are growing can see the other healthy leaves on the branches much more clearly, because all the dead foliage is being trimmed away. So it will be much easier for us to identify and spot and see the other branches of our healthy tree in these new growths. And that was going to be part of this process as well, that as these dead branches are trimmed away, or when it was shown like the branching out blood vessels, it was showing like certain branches drying, like going gray, and then just like drying up, kind of turning to ash and dust and just kind of blowing away. And what you had was these really robust, like ruby red, healthy bloodlines. And yeah, it was a very detailed picture and overlaying these different concepts.
Love it.
So
It's like, reminds me of, you can't put, new wine in old wineskins or old bottles now, it reads. Because it's a shift into something new.
mm-hmm.
And we're carrying a bunch of baggage that can't even hold the
Yes,
frequencies that's coming in. That's why they're
that's
getting
right.
pushed away. That's why they're getting bubbled to the surface, I think, right now. So it's going to feel a little uncomfortable, but it's still gentle compared to the shift that we're in the middle of. And I think
Yeah.
hindsight will be like, oh, wow, I can't believe, how much happened, how much is going on, because I can totally tell so much is going on right now, even though it's not, the
Yeah.
revolution will not be televised. Let me put it that way, for sure.
Well, as much as it can be difficult at times, I've also, like I've said, in observing my mom going through this and releasing some of these attachments, um, and the guilt attachments, different
Yeah.
things, a few different scenarios, seeing how it's affecting her physically, spiritually, energetically.
Mm-hmm.
I see the agitation, I see the energy coming, I see it, but then I also see how much the change that follows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally lighter. I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
her energy's lighter. I feel like the relief that she's experiencing by
Yeah.
having these things being lifted off of her, which leads me to another, I think, really great kind of question she had in going through really a heavy recent process of releasing a grief attached to her brother.
Mm-hmm.
And her question was just like, why now? Like, she's older than me, obviously. She's in her mid 60s. To come to these realizations now at this later time in life, there was a sense of frustration for her. Why did I have to suffer for so long? why couldn't I have realized these things earlier? Why did I have to carry this all this time and suffer through these different things? And you know, how this false belief system affected all these relationships that, you know, that followed.
I think it's
And
pretty
so much
normal, though.
suffering.
I don't think I've had any sort of huge insights or epiphanies or awakenings in my life or realizations that I didn't think, oh my gosh, this should have been so
I know.
obvious to me years ago or something. But I don't think, you know, that's just sort of digging up another regret to have. I think we
Well, that's
learn
it.
things when we, you
It
know,
deals with the regret,
yeah,
right? And this answers that question of regret. And for sure I do. And it's a big part of this guilt, like you
yeah.
said, you know, attached to, like, we're talking about the stories, like the man who's guilty about not spending time with the dying mother. I said, you know, it also sounds, a lot of that sounds similar to mother's guilt. You know, children grow up really fast. It's really hectic when they're young. You didn't do all the right things, but you can't do it over again. And you know, we carry a lot of those things with us too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it really is that release of these guilt and regrets to become lighter and more buoyant. So
It is the
but
realization that we are who we are today because of all those things we went through, and we wouldn't be who we are today. So it's, on one hand, yeah, I can see, like, you know, wishing that you could change something, but then you'd still be the type of person that would do those things that you learn not to do, right? So
yeah,
it's a
well,
learning experience.
I did get a really beautiful message when she asked this question, and we're sitting at the kitchen table, and I actually, when she said this, and I actually saw like a flash above her head that kind of got my attention and startled me. And then I was hit with emotion. Um, and the words, like, the message is really quite quick. It really came in with a flood and actually made me woozy for a second. And what I got very clearly from it was this overwhelming gratitude and thankfulness to my mother, you know. And the message was very clear that um, it is specifically for a time such as this. The gratitude to her that she came here to um, and experienced that suffering and held on to it and carried it to this point in time, this now, for the impact it would have on the whole collective consciousness. And that so many of us are doing this. Like, yeah, maybe we could have, you know, figured it out sooner, but what I really saw was the impact that it has at this time for all of us.
Yeah.
Her releasing that, it's like a bomb, and so many people are doing that. So you know, it was an interesting answer to that question, because
It is a
you know,
collective thing.
that's what
It's
we
an
often,
individual and a
yeah.
collective thing, and I think you're pointing out that direct connection to it. You know what I mean? How, why it's so
Mm-hmm.
important for some of us, thankfully, can hold a higher vibrational awareness, because that does impact the whole collective. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
When you don't pull everyone down, and there's some that are transmitting higher vibrations, and you know that's still going out too. So that's important. That's why I think we're
Yeah,
kind of situated all over the place like we are, instead of,
that's what I
you know,
saw.
all in one camp
Yeah.
somewhere.
And and that it's a real exponential effect,
Hmm.
like the
Snowball effect. Yeah.
power. It really is. And that's what so many of us are doing. So, and it also answers a lot of, you know, the sort of the disbelief sometimes. It's like, you know, when we see people who haven't figured out, you brought it up earlier, the ones that are just kind of getting it now, but you know, you tried to talk to them before,
Right.
but now they're hearing it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that, you can't take that personally,
Right.
because
It's hard not
because
to, though, you know, because,
it's
but
not, but
it's bringing up, but it's important because it's bringing up things that you didn't realize. Like, oh, I didn't, because that's what it did for me. I was like, oh, I didn't realize I was kind of harboring that even. So it was
yeah,
still a learning lesson for me in the whole thing. You know what I mean? It's like,
which is
whoa.
part of the exponential benefit,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And that maybe their higher self was not ignorant to the timing and not ignorant to the process, and that they have specifically chosen their timing, and it wasn't your timing, it was their timing, and the exponential benefits it has of releasing these like time bombs everywhere of these people going off and like coming out and releasing these levels of attachments
Mm-hmm.
and going into this higher observational mode. Like the impact it has is nuclear and just keeps rippling out. And so, you know, to understand, and that really can put you in that place of that non-judgmental of anybody's process, that there's a higher timing involved. And even the, you know, the duration of suffering, or the, you know, why I couldn't have known it sooner, is that you didn't mess up.
Right.
The benefits of releasing this now, whatever stage of the game you are, and to whatever level, is affecting all of us in this collective experience, and that's really what's going to rapidly accelerate it.
Well, it can actually create anxiety too at first, because I remember when I sort of realized my purpose and everything, it felt like when your alarm clock's been going off for a while and then you finally wake up and you're running late and you're kind of running around hectic trying to get everything done and catch up on time so that you're not late for work. And you have this feeling like, I'm late to the party, you know what I mean? Like, but you're right on time. It's just that feeling. Almost everybody I've talked to has that, like, oh my gosh, I should have realized this sooner, you know, with their, at least with their main awakening, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's definitely, that's a good metaphor again for some, like that, you know, part of that fight or flight response as well. It's kind of all mixed in with that.
But it's divine timing. Right.
Yeah. The press. Yeah. It's been marked at this time for a specific reason. And the fertilization benefits for the new growth are enormous. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why do it feel like we just covered everything?
Did we?
Notes. We gotta. Well, yeah. I mean, I can get into like the dreams specifically, but I mean,
not really necessary for it's
no.
just
I mean, that's
to
really the gist. Yeah. If I, you know, to get into telling you guys sort of there's several different dream scenarios from different people in viewing this process to sort of allow me to come to that realization of what this ancestral release is, as far as this healthy growth, and it's sort of being one of the final stages. I got pre-flight, keep getting that, and the Rocket Man, Elton John Rocket Man song, there's quite a few images I get with it. So that it's a very important, you know, near final stage, I'll say, of release for this. It's like a, you know, I said with my mom releasing at this time, like I've seen like the rocket boosters, like the effect that it has of just being this booster.
Right,
and
it's
part
almost
of the
like
fuel that allows us to lift off.
Right,
releasing
it's almost like, you know, this pool of consciousness that we're in. It sends these ripples out through it whenever we have these, and then that affects other people, and then they send a ripple out, and that's where we get the exponential effect we're talking about, because it keeps building and building. And I think we're totally in that right now. In fact, I've been seeing another trend I've been noticing is people sort of put in the position to either, you know, sort of fall in line or take a stand in situations. That's, if I put it like that, that would pretty much cover the gamut of what I've been saying. From little things, it could be like, you know.
You're right. And the stand, it's important that you said that, the words. And, you know, even the fact that they've just released Stephen King's The Stand, right?
Wow.
They just put that out again. And you're right. You're picking up on and that's part of it. It's the part of the being backed in the corner. You know, there's a few tarot cards that sort of represent that, and it's like.
Did your dog just walk in the room, or did your ghost open the door?
No, that was the dog.
Okay, just making sure.
That was Zoe.
Because I know people in the chat are like,
They're too afraid of me. There's no ghosts that come in here. I scare the crap out of ghosts. So, sorry, what was I saying?
So yeah, we were talking about sort of taking the stand right now, and
yes,
or falling in line and being, you know, are you going to compromise? Are you going to take a stand? And And I think it
Yes.
really leads back to ultimately, are you going to follow what your intuition or your heart is telling you to do in a situation, or are you just going to, is whatever the external stimuli or pressure is from? Press,
I think
pressure,
it really
press,
is
right?
claiming our, we're really being pressed to claim our sovereignty out
Exactly.
loud
Yeah.
to the depth of our being. Feel it, know it, want it, be it, and cry out to the Lord for the justice of it. And this whole situation is really pushing us to the core to do that, to say what is like, what's going on,
Right.
what's important to me, how do I really, you know, want to be, and putting yourself in the, this energy comes in, and if it hasn't shifted you yet, what it does is it shifts something, shakes something loose, hopefully, um, that puts you in this observer role where all of a sudden you're like watching yourself puppet around these behaviors, and you're like, well, hold on a second, why was I doing that, why was I saying that, why did I think I have to do that, you know?
Right.
So it's definitely one of the stages, and what we're really called to at this point now is, after having some, you know, practice in this observer role, and being put through the, like I said, the fight or flight test, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to hold your flame? It really is your stand, you know, when you think about holding that energy, and the whole kneeling and the standing, and anyways, we could go on. I could go on about the symbolism. It's, yeah, it's all there. It really is the stand.
So
Yeah.
that's really what, whenever I sort of get triggered by maybe a video I see, which I haven't been hardly, man, I haven't been following crap for like a month or something. I've been so, probably a month and a half, I've been so into the music. Matter of fact, what's coming through now goes right along with what we were talking about. And it's basically sort of this I am chant mantra song that, you know, and because it's about us stepping into our own sovereignty and realizing,
Mm.
you know, our sovereignty right now, because our
Yeah.
connection to the divine, that we don't need to go externally, you know, it's all within.
Yeah. The
And
other thing
art,
I
music, all of that
sorry.
we always talk about, you know, get involved with that connection.
Yeah. Sorry, bro.
No, no, no.
I just was getting in, because I also wanted to mention, there was this pushing of energy to make you feel alone, right? And all this isolation, all these lockdowns, you know, this, especially here in Canada, Ontario, you know, it really is like that back against the wall oppression now.
Yeah.
And you know, a big part of this process too, we talked about, when your reality gets shaken up like this, you lose a lot of friends. You like, it's just so magnified, this process, and how it can make you feel alone. And that was a big part of that heavy energy with the press as well. And I, you know, I think really the dark forces, energies, kind of wanting us to feel alone, you know, wanting us to feel separated, alienated. And I really, this is where I experienced the rebound energy coming in May 1st with May. It was like those 2 weeks were really pressing people with that loneliness
Mm-hmm.
and alienation, and backed into a corner. And that really brought out a lot of that fight or flight feelings as well. But really, what I saw come out May 1st was that stand. This is where the stand energy is coming in. And the cry out of, no, I am not alone. You are not alone. And I am not. You know, I know there's other people like me, like really people reaching out more in new ways. That haven't, like TikTok's a great example of that. And seeing people like really coming out and saying, I'm not, you know, I'm not going to feel like this, claiming their sovereignty, and a real resurgence, and with the marches and people out in the streets of like, we are not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the joy that you can see, like, these are not angry marches. This is a very different energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? These aren't the protests they had,
Right.
last
Yeah.
summer. No, no,
Exactly.
no.
Completely different.
These are people hugging, laughing, smiling, saying, I am free.
Yeah.
I am free. You cannot take that away from me. And I will speak, and I will smile, and I will hug, and I will love, and I will dance, and I will
Yeah. What's the point of
stand.
living if you're not going to live, right?
That's right.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. Just, I don't know.
Yeah. So I really saw that shift over, of the pressing and pressing those feelings in, but the humanity, this energy that's filling some of the flame within all of us, really rising in response and growing in response to, to cry out and claim sovereignty.
Hmm. I
And I
sometimes
also got,
wonder if the anxiety is maybe part of the collective, like maybe we're given some of that energy to sort of transmute it,
yes,
because that would make sense as well.
that's really what it is. Initially with that, like with the fight or flight energy that came in,
Hmm.
it wasn't, I do find a cyclical fear test run,
Hmm.
but it wasn't just that. No, this was part of the press, and this was part of that people feeling backed into a corner.
Mm.
Um,
So that's good in a way then, if people can have their own stuff together to a point where they can take on some extra transmuting energy type stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like
yeah,
we're all these
yeah,
factories for transmutation, and if we're not overloading the
that's
system
it.
with our own self projects, maybe we're able to help the collective more, right?
I really do believe that, and I do think, and it's an important job that some of us have come here to participate in. Is actually what I do actively every single day.
Hmm.
Is recognizing that is, I might not be. I'm very isolated here, but
Yeah.
basically snowed in, even though it's spring. So,
Well, if you
but
remember,
I also see,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, it's okay.
I was going
I
to
just see
say,
that it's for a reason.
right. I was going to say a while back, I got that analogy of the different planes, um, and sort of becoming these multi-dimensional pillars that can extend up through the third, fourth, fifth, as we hold these higher levels of consciousness, and we actually
Mm-hmm.
become these pillars to help stabilize and help others
Mm-hmm.
move upward. You remember that? That was probably
Yeah,
2 years ago.
I just got the barrel of monkeys again too. It's my friend drew one of the meditative doodle drawings. He was drawing something similar to that. It wasn't the barrel of monkeys, but it was like a person with all these people. And I was like, that's what it is. It's we get dipped in to this barrel, and it's, we kind of pick up whatever we can and save whatever, and then we come up, right, and see how much we can collect for the collective, and that we do that, some of us. So we all have a different way of doing it, but a lot of us do it in dream time, and meditation, all kinds of different ways, right, Zoe?
Aww.
Some of us do it with puppies.
Yeah, art, music, dancing. I
Yes.
didn't realize
Yeah.
the toll it was taking. People that normally go out and dance, it's like, dude, you can just dance around your house, can't you? But, it is really a culture for people, like the whole experience of communing with others and stuff, too, so.
That's it. And
So
that's
many
been really
aspects.
hard for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been hard about this process, and being, forced to being locked away from each other. But it's teeter-totter. There's justice. It's always
Right. And once again,
scales
how
to
many
one
times
side.
have we said, what's it going to take to wake the world up? And I think we're seeing it. I
Yeah,
really do.
maybe we shouldn't have asked that question.
Hey.
Well, let's find out, the universe says.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is what it is, and it as overwhelming and kind of sometimes disheartening as things can be. Looking at the greater scale, the greater picture, and the process, and the force, that the chaos does have, when under God's rule, not the elites, but in order to bring balance to us, and how the old, like I said, those branches, they have to be pruned away. The old systems, do need to crumble, and that's not always an easy thing, but I think it does get easier the more you understand the the entire process, and the benefits that will come. I think all the more quickly, like we can bring that in or reap those rewards or grow those crops, you know, when you can see past just the chaos and see the alchemic processes as a whole. I think we just jump ahead leaps and bounds. I think we're almost jump time in the process.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that makes sense with the converging timelines and everything too.
Mm-hmm.
It's all connected. I think it's just different ways that everyone's looking at it, but it's the shift.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we all get our own metaphors, and we all get, you know, that's why it's so important to not listen, you know, always to other people. To really to listen to inside yourself in the pictures and the metaphors. There's a very specific way that the universe communicates with us. The more, you know, you meditate, the more you get familiar with it. And it gets pretty easy after a while to sort of just quiet everything out and listen for those internal answers and get those pictures and confirmations. And you don't have to be thrown on the rough waters and the rough seas of what's going on, what appears to be going on outside of you. Yeah, smoother sailing, right?
Sailing, there it is again.
Smooth sailing.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like the more we fight it, is the more troubled waters we run into. It's almost like getting in, like Abraham Hicks talks about, getting in that vortex of creation, you know, but so many times we have so much that's holding us back, baggage, and we need some pruning, right?
Yep.
That's what it's all about. Awesome. I guess Zoe's letting us know the time is up.
Yep. She's a mama hog.
We love you, Zoe.
I'm going to say hi.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi to everybody. She's like, no, I don't want to. She's like, I just want to hide. Look at it. She just wants to hide. All right. She thinks she's this big. She doesn't realize. She's like an ostrich. If I can just hide my head, nobody will see me.
So cute.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Thanks for joining us. Let me look at the chat really fast, make sure I'm not missing anything really quick. Okay. So there's some stuff Dave said to check out. I'm going to check that out. I can't say it, but I will definitely look into that. I'm so glad we had the chat. So anybody else have anything juicy that we need to look
everyone.
up? Or something along those lines. If you have a wrench, you can actually put a link in there. So please don't hesitate to do that. I don't think it's actually watched. Like the description box and stuff.
There's the other one. Alligator eyes.
Aww.
Yeah.
All right, well, we love you guys in the chat. We'll see you when we see you. Yeah, because it's been like a little bit more than a month.
How'd we do?
Yeah, we're good. Lots of love, you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.